on saving millions of dollars in healthcare. Please welcome Donovan Pyle. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, Daniel, great to be here. And I've noticed you're drinking this stuff out of a shot glass. I'm wondering what's in that glass.
Well, if I was anything like my grandfather, it would be something a little bit heavier than this. But just this morning, it's coffee.
Okay, very good, very good. It's 7 o'clock here on the East Coast, so I just you just don't know.
You never know. You never know. It's only 8 a.m. here. It's beer o'clock somewhere. My father-in-law is a marine biologist, and one of his friends who's a scientist has been growing coffee here in Taiwan. So they're Taiwanese beans, and they're local, and it's also really good for weight loss. So I've found that the more coffee I drink, the less I want to eat. So somebody's getting rich. So
fantastic. You'll have to send me a link.
You know, we're talking about healthcare, and one of my beliefs is that everybody wants better health. And I'm certain that's a fact because I've never met somebody who says, I want worse health. And every time we get sick and we go to the doctors, we all do the same thing. We pray to the gods. Please, God, don't let this be worse than I think it is. If I'm healthy, I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to stop eating fatty foods. I'm going to have a better lifestyle. And we realize how important our health is, I think, when we're sick. And that's a bit of Western thinking. You know, Western thinking is very reactive. Even here in Taiwan, we have a lot of preventative medicine, but a lot of people don't use it until they get sick. And getting sick is very expensive. What have you?
Yeah, not only in money, but time and the way it affects your family life and productivity and all kinds of softer costs. But it's a big challenge out there for sure.
What are you seeing in your part of the world? What are people getting sick with more often? Hello, sir. How you doing there?
Yeah, well, this is my son Quentin here, and this might be his first podcast. I'm not sure, but they get sick because they eat too much of Reese's peanut butter cups. No, I'm just kidding. We love Reese's, but what are people getting sick with? Here in these, oh, they're delicious, but just special occasions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in the United States, they're getting it's chronic diseases. These are all just lifestyle diseases, and it's not trending for the better. It just keeps on going up. The amount of people in our population that are obese, they're diabetic, they're pre-diabetic. I mean, and you can say that sure, the way that diabetes is measured. There's been some gaming of the system a little bit in the United States to basically everyone's pre-diabetic in the United States. That's how the way that they've changed the marker for that. But anyway, sidebarring all of that, yes, we have some serious structural challenges here. Personally, I think a lot of it's related to our food supply chain and how that's been corrupted, taken over by the food industrial complex, which of course we subsidize to the nth degree here in the States. Hey, we started subsidizing corn, and what do you know? Everyone's corn syrup's in everything now, right? I mean, it's actually terrible for you. So these are some of the structural challenges that we have in the States, and in the U.S., half the citizens in the U.S. are covered with healthcare benefits by their employer, 164 million Americans, and so yes, there should be a lot of alignment in making sure people are taking care of themselves. But there's also just a huge industry out there that is steadfast on extracting as much money out of employers and patients as possible here in the United States. And it's a challenge here. It's also a challenge in many places around the world, as you know. So glad you're raising awareness.
It's an interesting business model, the hospitals and a lot of the healthcare systems, because it requires you to get sick. And the goal of a business is to attract and keep a customer. But if you think about it, if somebody heals or if you heal the patient, you lose your customer. And that's a really bad business model.
Yeah.
So, if you
Yeah.
step back and you look at it, you think, if we could just keep them all sick, we could keep them all as customers. And if they're customers, they keep spending. What a great business model. What a fantastic business
What a
model.
great
You're
business.
going to have a
Well,
customer for life.
yeah, right. Depending on what side of the ledger you're on, for sure. And
Besides the
so, yes,
trades.
there are, right, exactly. And yeah, the worse job you do, the more, the more you're going to make, especially, in the US, we have some real challenges in that we don't actually have a free market in healthcare. We don't have normal market signals, as in pricing information, quality metrics. I mean, you can find it. If you know how to get pricing and quality information, you can get it, absolutely. And that's one of the things we teach employers, is how to get that information. And so you can, once you see it, then you can actually start managing your healthcare supply chain. But most businesses are completely in the dark. And if you're completely in the dark, you're going to get taken advantage of. You're going to get fleeced by the insurance and medical industrial complex. But there is absolutely a movement amongst mostly independent physicians in the United States that no, they don't want to provide sick care. They want to keep people healthy, but it requires a change in the revenue model, because obviously incentives are super important and drive everything. So yes, there's subscription-based primary care. There's some very interesting things out there that are effective in many cases, but they're not getting adopted by employers, and the reason for that is I cover all this in my book, of course, but most finance and HR teams know nothing about healthcare financing and procurement. It's not in their wheelhouse. Just like, as a CEO of my company, I'm not an expert in U.S. tax policy, right? So what do? I hire an accountant to, protect my blind spots, right? So that I don't get abused by the IRS, right? I just pay what I'm supposed to pay. But in healthcare, when we're talking about a business's second or third largest expense, most U.S. businesses rely on brokers and they expect brokers to help them maximize their benefits and investment. The disconnect is that brokers don't work for them. Brokers, the history of the industry is that they were developed to serve as retail distribution for insurance companies. They make more money when costs go up, not down. So it's like the ultimate fox guarding the hen house scenario that literally costs U.S. businesses over $300 billion a year. That's $4,000 per employee per year in absolute waste, and that's the most conservative estimate.
Wow. 4,000. How can a small business sustain that? It's impossible.
They really can't. I mean, that's the whole thing, is that when you're healthcare used to be maybe number 26 on the P&L, right? And because it's had the highest inflation rate of any corporate expense for the past 20 years, now it's many companies' second or third largest expense. And most of them, they just don't know how to control it. And the whole reason I published this book last year, Fixing Healthcare, was to give executives the roadmap on to how given the landscape, here you actually have a lot more power than you think. And now that you know that you have the power, here's how to actually exercise and use it to stop getting abused by the system.
Mm-hmm. The concept of healthcare is different in America and Australia and the Middle East. When I lived in the Middle East, my wife and we worked with Emirates Airline. And as part of our package, we were provided healthcare and insurance. And I personally believe it was the best package I've ever seen. And I know that firsthand because my wife was flying back from London into Dubai, and she had an accident on the aircraft, and it resulted in fracturing her knee in 5 different places. Over the next 2.5 years, she went through 3 major reconstructive surgeries. The first surgeon operated in Dubai. The second surgery was in the United Kingdom. And the company flew her business class because she couldn't bend her leg. They flew her business class from
Yeah.
Dubai to London, put her up in a 5-star hotel,
Hmm.
found the top doctor in London, flew her back. They consulted with the company. They said, good, if you
Awesome.
want this operation, we'll send you back. So they sent her back to London. They sent me with her, and we stayed in a 5-star hotel for an entire month while she recovered. And then we came back to Dubai, and then we had to have the third
Awesome.
operation. So we went back again. And for 2.5 years, her accommodation and her basic salary was covered. All the medical expenses
Yeah.
for physical health, emotional health, mental health was all covered by the company. And then eventually, when she did
Yeah.
lose her job and she had to move on from the company, they wrote her a nice big check and said, we're very sorry about what happened. Here's some money to make it easier for your next step. And it was absolutely phenomenal. And
Wow.
I said to my wife, I said, anywhere else in the world, you would have never have seen that. You would have been looking for the doctors. Everything would have been out of pocket. You didn't dip your finger in your purse once. And I tell this story and people are like, impossible. I've never heard of that. But that's how it was. And it was such a
Yeah. Well,
blessing.
yeah, that's amazing. And from what I've heard, I have not worked with United Emirates personally, but I've heard that they do a fantastic job of managing their healthcare supply chain, and they partially self-fund their plan in many areas, and so they're directly on the hook. They have visibility when you partially self-fund your plan. What you're doing is you have the ability to manage your healthcare supply chain yourself instead of just delegating it to some third party that really probably doesn't even care and probably even profits from waste, right? So they're very, from what I hear, very hands-on, and that story really confirms it. That's amazing.
And Aussies don't have that luxury. Australians have to put their hand in their own pocket. They get covered by Medicare, which is related to the government. It's a social system, but there's virtually no benefit. If you're sick, if your arm's falling off, you might have to
Yeah,
wait a couple of years to get some assistance. Versus where we are in the
yeah,
world here in Taiwan, globally, we are known for one of the top healthcare systems in the world. And I know that because anytime my family is sick, we get immediate attention. Recently, I was
hmm,
experiencing some pain in the abdominal area. I said to my wife, let's go see the oncologist. And so she picked up the phone, made an appointment, and I was there the very next day. Walk in, sit down, see the top
wow,
surgeon, get sent for X-rays, MRIs, all of this in a split second. Get the
yeah,
bill,
yeah,
less than $100 for all of that, and it happens in the same day. And then if you want medication here,
yeah.
we still have compound pharmacy. So you see the doctor, you get medicine that's prescribed specifically for you, and you get it for less than $10. And it's mind blowing just how good the system is and how cheap it is.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, you're exactly right. And what's really shocking to a lot of people that are not in the space is that healthcare is actually very cheap in many cases. Like a lot of the routine things that we use, right? High utilization. It's actually pretty. Like if you know how to buy it, it's actually very affordable. Most of the things that we use, right? I mean, you can get an MRI in the United States for $300-400 if you know how to buy it, right? But if you're delegating it to some network provider, some health plan administrator, you're gonna like you could end up paying $4,000 for that same MRI. Okay, I mean, think about the opportunity there. And we've got people. I'm in downtown Orlando, and you can literally buy an MRI for $4,000 in one place, or go half a mile away and buy it for $400. Same exact thing. And there's so many commoditized services in healthcare that there's no labs. There's no difference in labs, right? I mean, it doesn't matter where you get your labs done; it's all the same thing. And there's so many instances of that where it's actually, if you know how to buy it, it's actually very affordable. Um, so, what's amazing is that, this whole concept of networks. This is a relatively modern phenomena, right? Oh, these networks. Oh, these are the doctors that are in your network. You can go see them. They'll accept your insurance. And it sounds like such a great, like, convenient thing. But the whole purpose of the networks was to spread price on the care itself. So all of a sudden, the broken arm that it should cost $125 to cast now costs $350. And guess who's keeping the difference in that price? That's the insurance company. Like, they're actually making money on the supply side. And the whole point of this was to hide the price from employers and patients. And so anyone that goes, any Joe Schmo in the United States who goes and pays cash for healthcare gets a better deal than a Fortune 50 health insurance company on a unit cost basis. I mean, that's the state of where we are right now in the U.S. And I think, people are starting to wake up to this fact. So I've been a cash pay patient since 2019. When we had Quentin, who was on the pod in 2019, we were on a traditional health plan, right? And we were paying, it was almost $25,000. We ended up paying $10,000 out of pocket for his delivery. And I had to spend the next 2 years fighting about a balance bill from the hospital that we should have never gotten in the first place. So I said, screw that. We're going to join a health sharing organization, and we're going to be a cash patient for all of our routine stuff, right? Anything that's maintenance oriented, just pay cash. And I'll tell you, I absolutely love it. Not only does it save us by today's measurements, about 20 grand a year in premiums, but also the convenience of being a cash patient. Like, I can get in immediately. If you're paying cash, you can skip all kinds of lines if you're paying cash. And not only that, you know what the price is going to be up front, and it's usually a lot cheaper than going through a typical insurance plan. One of the takeaways in my book is that there's no silver bullets when it comes to healthcare. Everyone's looking for this. Everyone likes to think that there's this silver bullet, but I mean, in a real market economy, there are no silver bullets. People love choice, right? I mean, think about, there are 500 different kinds of cereal in the United States, and there's probably 1,000 different kinds of milk right now. People love choices. They value different things, and that's great. But to think that we have to have this one system for healthcare that's going to accommodate everyone's needs, I think it's just a fairy tale. It's not going to happen. It's not realistic. It's not how market economies work.
So are you saying people have a choice?
People really have a choice. And I'm not suggesting that what I've done for my family is what you should do for yours or anybody else. But I'm saying there absolutely are ways to do this that are very cost effective. You can get great care, and it's convenient. And you just have to, you just have to know about it, right? I mean, at the end of the day, people just don't know about it. The conversations, like the public conversations in the United States on healthcare, are always they're always just distractions, right? That we never actually talk about fundamental things that would make markets more effective and efficient. We never talk about those things in the media. That's not the conversation that we have. It's all just distraction from my opinion. So anyway, we are going to change in this country. Either we're going to do it in a voluntary way where we figure out, right? The private sector figures out how to buy better, or we're going to hit a wall. And run out of money. I mean, our social programs are running out of money. Right? They're not sustainable. What's going on with most employers is not sustainable. And that was, again, like one main reason I wrote the book was to raise awareness that these outcomes, this pain that we're experiencing, most of this is optional. And right here in Orlando, Florida, we had a gentleman by the name of Harris Rosen from Rosen Hotels. If you've ever come to Orlando, for a conference or something, there's a good chance that you stayed at one of Rosen's hotels. And he's, if you talk to people in Orlando, he's more known for his philanthropic work. Like the guy, he actually unfortunately passed last year. But he sent just hundreds and hundreds of kids to college every year, just amazing stuff, right? And he credits his ability to do that because he stopped blindly giving his money to insurance companies 30 years ago. And he started pioneering his own ways to buy and deliver healthcare to his employees back in 1991. Over the next 30 years, he saved his company over $500 million on healthcare. And not only that, he did it by providing a superior product. I mean, one of the best health plans in the country, similar to what your experience was with United Emirates Airline. That's exactly the level of care delivered to his employees, and one of the reasons that his turnover rate in the hospitality industry is half what his competitors is, because he just takes care of them.
Incredible. Such an amazing story. You were mentioning about when your son Quinton was born, 2019. The cost for delivery, how much was that? What was the cost of the hospital stays that you paid versus what the average person would have paid?
Well, so keep in mind, we were on the traditional health plan during that, and so the hospital bill, the what's called the allowed amount in the United States. So you've got your billed amount, which is like the MSRP, right? Like it's the hospital's charge master. I don't remember what that was. That's like those are made up numbers. Okay, they just make that up. But the billed amount, or the allowed amount rather, was somewhere in the neighborhood of $40,000. Okay, and I paid $10,000 of that out of pocket, and then I had to fight a balance bill for the next 2 years. Now contrast this when our daughter was born 2 years later, and we were on the health sharing organization, right? We chose to deliver at a instead of going into the hospital and doing what everybody does. By the way, most people, you don't need to deliver your babies in hospitals. You just don't, like, that is, unless you're high risk, you don't need to do that. Okay, talk about wasting money. And I mean, so we had Abby at a birthing center down the street, and the experience was night and day. It was unbelievable. It was so beautiful, calm, no buzzing sounds, no army of people coming in every 20 minutes to ask you the same 50 questions. No nonsense. Guess the all-in price of that delivery.
$7,000.
A little bit less. It was $6,500 all in. Now, and because we chose to deliver at a birthing center, we were good consumers. My health sharing organization, they waived all of our out-of-pocket expenses, and that $6,500. Not only was that for delivery, that was all the prenatal care, the months of prenatal care leading up to it. And so like Abby was born at like 11 p.m. at night. By 1 a.m. she was cleaned up, and they let me take her. It was a beautiful night. I was able to take her outside and go for a walk and look at the stars and the moon. You know what I mean? Like 2 hours after she was born. And you could never do that if you're in a hospital setting, right? I mean, it's like you would be shot if you tried to take your baby out of the hospital. How dare you? So just a completely night and day experience, and so much more cost effective. So it's just amazing. And all these opportunities are out there, but you got to know that they exist. Awareness is the first step.
Mm. And none of us like to feel incompetent. None of us like to feel ignorant. And I think that stops a lot of people from asking questions. To think that you could save that amount of money on the birth almost makes having a family affordable. Because I know people in Australia are not having children because of the expenses. Here in Taiwan, we now have the lowest birth rate in the world. And it's not the delivery that's expensive here. It's everything that comes afterwards. So we're seeing a decline in the birth rate because the cost of raising children, which all the other factors, healthcare, food, diapers, education, all of that plays a part. But if If you're smart and you can get it for 6,500 versus 40 grand, that makes it affordable. The Australian government many years ago, they
Yeah.
introduced a baby bonus, and they said, if
It,
you have a
it, it,
baby, we're going to give you $5,000. And so all these people under 18 went and got pregnant, and they went and bought televisions or new wheels for their car. And my brother, he said, 5 grand. He said, that won't even buy you diapers for the year.
oh my. Yeah. 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 Isn't it amazing? I mean, it's just incredible how incentives drive behavior. And yeah, I did not know that Australia did that. But yeah, it's really an interesting phenomenon. This whole low birth rates around the world. And I don't know if it's related to the fact that people aren't drinking as much. I don't know what's going on there, but I don't know if we can solve all these problems on this podcast. But it is fascinating that people are they're not. Yeah, they're not having sex.
Not having sex at
It's
all.
what's going
At all.
on.
People were more concerned about toilet paper than condoms during the pandemic. You should have been at home buying all the condoms. That would have been much better.
Oh my God.
It is interesting, and I think there's many different.
Yeah, exactly. It would have had a lot more fun.
Yeah, I was saying to my kids, I said, I'm 46, and I said, for the past 40 years, there's been an ongoing war somewhere in the world. And I can understand why people don't want to have children, because in their mind, they bring it into a place that's already chaotic. And so, yes, their fears get in their way. Their costs are going up. I get it. Our families here in Taiwan, we've got cousins who aren't interested in getting married. It's totally fine with me. And they don't want to have kids either. So we're seeing it firsthand that these birth rates are low, but the cost of living is so high. And it's not just the financial cost, it's what you've got to give away with your soul. So many people are working a job that's not their passion. It's not what they intended to do. And they've got to work these long hours just to survive. And I think a lot of them are just fed up with it and saying, you know what, I don't want the next generation to go through what we're going through. And I see that. And it's a shame. We've got to.
Yeah.
If we really.
Yeah. I mean, I think this. Yeah, I mean, I think we're all dealing with the consequences of fiat currency around the world, and the inflationary results of that. And if you're not on the asset side of the ledger, you're getting your ass kicked, right? If you don't own assets, inflation crushes you. You don't benefit. If you own assets, you benefit from inflation. But if you don't own assets, you're really pushing water uphill, and that's a tough place to be. So I think, yeah, I mean, from a financial perspective, you've got those dynamics. From a just societal, cultural perspective, this whole Instagram world is just, I think it's really hurting people's mental health in big ways. That if I'm not just hanging out on a yacht with my buddies, and I'm a loser. And I think the fear, right? Yeah, I had to stop watching the news about 10 years ago. I feel bad. I used to spend I feel like I wasted so much time following things that I have virtually no effect on. Right? I can't affect these things. They're not helping my mental health, right, by knowing these things. And I can't do anything about it for the most part. So I just feel like, especially with Trump and the strongman trend around the world, a lot more people are engaged in politics to some degree. At least they're online, meme jockeys, but it's not helping them. I think it's really undermining their mental health and promoting this idea that, the world is such a dangerous place these days. You know what? Go back 300 years ago. The world was way more dangerous 300 years ago. We all live like kings these days compared to people just 150 years ago. So it's relative. I think we've just lost a lot of context around how good we actually have it. I mean, listen, I'm a white guy that happened to be born in the United States in the 20th century. I'm the luckiest person that's ever walked the face of the planet. I mean, there's no question about it. So I just feel like, and I like the dynamics that you're talking about. People think, oh, things are so bad now, and shouldn't have kids because things are just so terrible. The world's going to end, and all this and that. I just don't buy it.
One thing that Australians are affected by, and even Taiwanese, is the cost of real estate. My first property that I purchased when I was 19 was $179,000.
Yeah.
That same property today is $1.5 million. It went up, let's call it 10 times, but people's income didn't go up 10 times. So they're saying now that the next generations of Australians coming through, they're not going to be able to buy their first property until they're in their 40s or 50s. And it's going to take them 40 to 50 years to pay it off. And I think that's a struggle that most people of my age didn't have at the start. But the new generation, they have to face a different type of hurdle. That's a big one. We also see here in Taiwan, our education.
I agree.
But in places like Australia, people have to go into huge amounts of debt just to be able to service their education. And the education doesn't have the weight that it had back in the 90s and 2000s. People want it, but now the certificate and what you learn is so redundant by the time you get into the marketplace. So there's different obstacles and hurdles that, yes, we've all got to overcome them.
Yeah.
But in the short term, it's a significant barrier. But, my thought here is you were talking about this cost of health.
Yeah, it is.
Somebody's got to pick up the bill.
Go ahead.
And the bill is going to be the customer. And unfortunately, if the customer has to pick up the bill, all of us have to pay more for the goods and services. But if we get smart at buying, then we can get those costs of goods back down. So somebody who is an employee and they want to make an impact locally, what's the conversation that they can have with their employer about getting the cost of healthcare down? Where do they start that conversation?
Transformation roadmap. The first step is getting unbiased advice. Like I said, most finance and HR teams, they don't know this space at all. It's very complicated. Just like US tax policy is very complicated. And so the chances of them actually becoming a good student of the game are almost non-existent. I know, despite Mark Cuban trying to get CEOs educated about this stuff, and God bless him, the guy, he doesn't need to do any of this stuff, and yet he's spending his time because he knows how important it is to get people up to speed on the opportunity. So for most people that aren't going to be, really dive into this, don't have the time to become subject matter experts in this, they got to get unbiased advice. So that's why I wrote the book, to help people understand how to do it. How do you get unbiased professional advice? And that, once you get alignment on that, then it's like, oh my God, the market, now I didn't realize the marketplace of strategies and solutions is so much bigger than I ever realized. In the United States, employers are shown like 4 different carriers every year. It's the same carriers over and over again. And they think that's all there is. And it's like, no, the market's huge. It's not just this, it's this. And that's a massive opportunity. You got to create that competition. And, think about it. In the United States, 80% of businesses still use the big 3 pharmacy benefit managers, and the revenue models of those companies are diametrically opposed to the interests of the purchaser. And so, well, why are you working with them? You don't need to work with them. No one's got a gun to your head, but it's because, again, they're relying on sell side retailers for advice. So that's a problem. but yes, getting unbiased advice, that's the first big step. And again, this is not just a US problem. I mean, I was doing some work with a government in the Middle East last month, and they're doing a massive healthcare sustainability project. And they brought me in because they wanted to understand the brokerage industry more. They understood that they have friction in the commercial marketplace. And so, they want to build this Ferrari of value-based care, which we all want to have that Ferrari. It's beautiful. But if the commercial highway is littered with potholes, it's going to destroy the Ferrari before it leaves the garage. And so that's a big part of the roadmap is they got to get that cleaned up first, so that those value-based solutions can survive and get adopted by the marketplace. So it's I mean, I almost feel like I need to write a second book just on the idea of getting unbiased advice, because there's so many parts of our economy that have these conflicts. Think about, you were just talking about housing, right? Think about the legacy real estate agent model, right? You want to go buy a house. You work with a real estate agent who's supposed to be negotiating on your behalf, right? So you probably want to negotiate the price down, but they make more money when the price is high, right? So they're probably, it's just like death by 1,000 cuts. It's not, they probably mean well, but it's like, unless you really force them and push them, they're not going to advocate that hard. They're going to do what they have to do to get the deal done and move on. And so it's just a little bit of apathy, and you multiply that by, how you buy 3 houses in your home, in your life, purchaser of your life, and you're relying on conflicted advice for that. That's insane. Like, this is like low-hanging fruit. So, maybe that's a second book.
Well, we better get a copy. Where do we get a copy of the first book, Donovan? What's the best place to get it from?
So you can get a copy go to fixinghealthcare.com. If you're a busy executive, just download the free executive summary. Just do that. It's free, no big deal. But yeah, you can go to fixinghealthcare.com and purchase it right from the website there.
Donovan, thanks for
your time. And of course, we're on Amazon and all the other things.
Thank you so much.
Daniel, great meeting you. It's been a pleasure.